So let's cover one Florida specific estate planning myth now that some people assume that because Florida has no state estate tax, estate planning is not necessary. Why is that wrong?
Well, because again, the estate tax is a very small issue. Um, the estate tax on a federal level, it doesn't really come into existence unless you have 15 to 30 million if you're married. So that is always just one component. Um, Now it could be income tax problems, meaning there is what's called step up in basis when a person passes away. If you receive a house through an inheritance and your parents bought it for $15,000 60 years ago and it's now worth $600,000. Well, if it's given to that child during life, well, they take the basis of the parents, so therefore they have a very big gain, as I alluded to earlier. So income tax planning is part of it. Um, Choosing your right fiduciaries. Okay, so who is in charge of you if you can no longer speak for yourself because either you are disabled or you passed away? Who do you want in charge? It doesn't always have to be the oldest person because I've had that too, where, oh, well, I want Johnny. Well, you just told me that Johnny has a severe drug problem. Like, is that really who you want to make decisions for you? And that open honest conversation. Um, how do you want the assets to be divided? You may have a child who's married to that daughter-in-law who burns the turkey every Thanksgiving, and you can't stand her. So therefore, and you know they're heading for a divorce, and you want to plan around that. Um, and so that is part of estate planning. Values, it could be values, meaning, you value hard work. You've worked hard all your life to create what you've created. And, you have a son who is very to lunch. And you want to make sure that he's not getting anything out of his trust unless he works. So therefore, for every dollar he shows on a W-2, he gets a dollar of the trust, right? So there's value propositions that you can provide in the estate plan as well. Um, so, and again, mixed marriages. How do you want to provide for the spouse? The Homestead laws, the elective share laws, all those things go into determining an estate plan for a family that has nothing to do with the estate tax.
So let's now dive into powers of attorney. People have heard of it. People may even have one, and they misunderstand and they think that a power of attorney works even after death, where they could make certain changes. What does a power of attorney actually do, and when does it stop working?
So a power of attorney is where you designate the person to be your agent, meaning they are the person who can make financial and legal decisions for you. And in Florida, it's required that whatever power you want to give them, you have to list each and every single power that you want to provide for them. Okay. Um, and so it's a very strong document. You are putting a lot of trust in somebody to do those things. Um, but the big thing is, and so therefore people are like, well, I have the power of attorney, so I can do whatever I want. Well, number one, they're in a fiduciary duty. But number two, that stops when the person who executed the power of attorney passes away. At that point, you no longer have the ability to make decisions for them. You no longer have any power over the assets. And that's when it shifts to either probate or if you have a trust, the successor trustee steps into those shoes.
Okay. Um, and why is it so important then for people to understand that the power attorney does not give someone authority after death?
Because again, that's another one of those misconceptions that again provides unintended consequences.
Mhm.
So now, if they heard that somewhere, in the barbershop or the beauty shop, and they decide not to do any further planning, now we're in the intestacy laws again. And those have those unintended consequences that maybe your surviving spouse gets 50%, and that's not what you intended. Maybe it's, money goes to the children, but you've been meaning to, um, one of the children you just don't get along with and you haven't got along with them. Or maybe they're in prison.
Hmm.
And I've had that too, to where they're in prison and they're supposed to receive an inheritance. That can produce a lot of extra expense and time and burden and things like that. Um, and so, again, it's without the proper planning with the estate planner, the attorney who's qualified in the state in which you live in Florida. Um, you can have tremendous and unintended consequences with great cost, both time and money.
You're on the Space Coast. So what local realities are there for families, retirees, military families, aerospace professionals? Um, what local realities are there that make good estate planning especially important?
One of the biggest things is that our population, so 25% of our population is 65 or older. So that's higher than the rest of Florida. I think we're at 21% for the rest of Florida. And as a whole in the US is 16%. So we have a very unique older population. So that takes a lot of unique planning, and that there's different asset protection techniques from whether they've gathered a lot of wealth and we need to protect those assets. Because that's usually when you're more in the asset preservation route than asset building, is when you're at 65 or 70. So it may be asset protection because you have accumulated wealth. It could be asset protection because of the fact that dementia and Alzheimer's are the fastest growing diseases in the US by far. And so that comes with special protections. Um, Making sure you have the right fiduciaries because of the fact that, our older population can be very trusting, which means they're very vulnerable to scams. And so having the right decision makers in place can really reduce the chance of that. Okay. So with our older population, there comes with those sort of specific, um, unique situations that, the rest of Florida and also the rest of the US population doesn't. Um, and then with the aerospace engineers and, we have it's really shocking the concentration of engineers here in Brevard County is, last I saw is top 10, maybe top 5, which means we have a lot of really, really smart, um, well-paying jobs here in Florida, and so therefore, there is a lot of accumulated wealth there that's coming that they need to plan for that, um, because of the fact that they do have money, they do have assets, they do, have children that they need to protect or to take care of. And so um, it is amazing population. And also the military families. We have retired military here. Um, and so that adds in maybe some VA planning that may be helpful to them as they age. If they're going to an assisted living facility or need help at home, then the VA can offer some benefits under certain situations as well. So, um, yeah, the Space Coast is wonderful. We have beautiful beaches. We have great, wonderful people, and we have a very unique, special population that has their own special planning. Little nuances that um, we need to just be mindful of. The first thing they should do is call an attorney who specializes in estate planning, because it's not too late until it's too late. And when it's too late is if they're disabled, if they have passed away. That's when it becomes, you know, too late. Anytime before that, generally speaking, there are things that we can do to alleviate that situation. But you need to sit down with somebody who knows the law, somebody you feel comfortable with, because you do need to be very honest with us. You do need to be very open and transparent as to what are things that they see within their own family? What are their assets? Um, what's their income? What's the family dynamics? All those things are very, very important for us to put together a good estate plan. You can't just give us half the story. It's like going to the doctor and saying, "Hey, my arm hurts," but you're not telling them that you have a chest pain and all these other things that's reason why you're having a heart attack, but you're just complaining about your arm hurting. So you need to tell us the whole picture so we can put together an estate plan that's unique to you, that addresses your estate planning needs, um, and that they're compliant with Florida law.